So remember again, we're still in the midst of this is like the never-ending story. The story is going on and on and on with the Mechaber and the two brothers. But again, actually, we're closing it out today. Remember again, this is where the Mechaber has been telling we'll call him the observant brother, or I should say the more meticulous brother, that his fundamental failure was that even though, again, he's more proficient in Torah, he's more proficient in mitzvos than his quote-unquote lesser observant brother, his lesser observant brother understands something that he does not, which is that the point of those Torah mitzvos is to bring one to a heightened level of emunah, to bring one to a heightened level of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the brother has that connection, whereas this one, we'll call him the observant brother, does not. He is careful with the details. He's perhaps more proficient behaviorally, but he has failed to transform those behaviors into emunah. He goes on, he says, "Lachem yesh alech tana v'kosher chazaka." So the Mechaber tells the observant brother, so there's a big kasha, there's a big question on you, which is, why haven't you allowed your religious service to create, inform, and shape a heightened level of emunah? Why don't you converse with God regarding everything? So the Rav here gives a beautiful mashal. He says, "La'adam shekibel rechev chadish me'avoda b'shvil linsoa liya'an misuyam." This could be compared to someone who receives a company car. Now, if you get the company car, what's the point of that? The point is you go to work. I'm saying, if you get a company car, so the goal is you take that vehicle, you use it to go to your meetings, you use it to go to your office, you use it to see your clients. So what happens? My company gives me a car. I'm not hinting or anything. I'm just saying, my company gives me a car. So what happens? And because I'm preparing I have a big meeting, I have to go up to be at a particular location. Gives me the car, and I don't show up. Vulo Gilead. So I get the car, but I don't show up to the location. Top of Tzadi Gimel. Kimokin lecha nitnu dikduk b'Torah ub'mitzvos. And this is a very profound mashal. So the Rav says to the observant brother, he says, so too with you. He said, you're proficient in the details regarding Torah mitzvos. She'itam yacholta la'agia liyad shu emunah v'lo agat le'emunah. This is profound. See, he says the same way that if the employee is given the company car, but fails to show up for work or fails to show up for the meeting, he's held accountable for that. So beautifully, our Torah and our mitzvos, those are the vehicles through which we arrive at emunah. And therefore, if I'm driving the company car of Torah and mitzvos, but I fail to show up at the meeting of emunah, I fail to ultimately, again, actualize those tenets of emunah, then I'm not properly utilizing the utensils at my disposal. I'm not using the company car in the correct way. Because on the other hand, your brother, we'll call him the non-observant one, your brother is considered to be like someone who arrived at the particular destination in a broken down wagon. So your brother has a wagon, right? Meaning he doesn't even have a company car. He's got a wagon. But here's the difference. He ended up getting to the destination, right? He got to the level of emunah. Someone like your brother, when he does end up getting the company car of Torah and mitzvos, there's no telling what he could accomplish. So also, this is really the mashal. Actually, is quite beautiful. The destination that a Jew wants to arrive at, that's the goal. That's the be-all, end-all in life. My goal is that somehow, some way, I want to get to a level of emunah. And again, emunah as defined as the way we're talking about, the recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hakol L'Tova, everything is for good, and therefore, by extension, I realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me and everything that happens. That's the goal. Because if I imagine, I'm sure all of you have. I could only imagine reaching that level of emunah. When you reach that level of emunah, life is different. You're different. Everything is different. So the Mechaber says that's the goal. How do I get there? Torah, mitzvos, those are the means to allow me to reach the level of emunah. So the goal is getting to the meeting. The means is the company car. So Torah mitzvos, those are the company car. Now, what the Mechaber is pointing out over here is, look, are there some people who can get to the meeting without the company car? Sure. Meaning you could get to the meeting even if you're driving a broken down wagon. And I don't mean a station wagon. Right? If you just like with the horse and wagons, you can get there. The difference is the road is longer, bumpier, and a bit more circuitous, but you can get there. And the point of this story over here is this, we'll call him the other brother, right? The other brother got there, meaning he reached this level of emunah despite the fact that Lamaisa, again, he was not driving the company car. Lochein, Mishamayim Sholchim L'cha Yisurim, second paragraph, Tzadi Gimel. V'shila over Oscha Liros Es Hatol Shata Chayba, Im Tascha Me'achshav La'avod Al Emunah Shakol HaTova, V'titein Toda L'Hashem Yisbarach B'chol Yom Alakol, U'tisocheach Im Abori U'tishatef Es Abori B'chol She'over Alecha, Atatira Eich Kol Hadinim Nintakim L'Gamrei, V'tichya Chayim Smechim. So the Rav here posits, says to the observant brother, perhaps the difficulties that you are encountering is because you're not on the right path in life. The difficulties, the challenges you are encountering are because Kadosh Baruch Hu is trying to send you a message that you need to recalibrate. You need to readjust. And if you internalize the message and readjust, then perhaps your challenges and difficulties, either will fade away, or perhaps a bit differently, you'll be empowered with a different kind of perspective in order to be able to deal with them. It's the end of the story. That's the end of the story. What's the takeaway from this story? The takeaway from this story is each of us have to reevaluate how we look at life. We'll say it's a very profound statement. When we think about what is the ikar, what is the most important thing in life? What is the most important thing in life? So the Mechaber is positing here, the most important thing in life is emunah. As we continue to learn this sefer, we begin to understand the profundity of that statement. Emunah is the most important thing because emunah shapes and guides everything else in life. V'efshar limdod shum adam v'ladas es arko ha'amiti ki mi yodea ma dargaso b'emunah. Now, both say this is another very profound statement. There's another outgrowth of this story. So the major takeaway message of the story is the importance of emunah. I will say I love this mashal because again, emunah is the destination, right? Emunah is the meeting. Emunah is the office that you need to show up at every day. How I get there, the means, the mechanisms, the tools, the car that gets me there, that's Torah mitzvos. That's lesson number one. Lesson number two is he says, never judge people. And never go ahead and especially judge people based on what you see in terms of their external appearances of observance or lack thereof, because you never know a person's darga and emunah. You never know ultimately, again, a person's level in their emunah. And by the way, this is the other take of the story. Deep down at the end of the day, the observant brother looked down on the other brother and said, why is he getting all this? He's not even worthy. He's not even worthy. And that statement or that approach of he's not even worthy was predicated on the fact that the observant brother judged his other brother on the external trappings of his observance. And again, I will say, let's be clear, we're not downplaying the importance of Torah and mitzvos. And in order to be a complete Jew, I need Torah and mitzvos. That's not. But the point that he's saying over here is, yes, it's possible for people to sometimes possess emunah, even if their observance is not fully intact. Now, again, I want to be clear. That is not a model to aspire to, right? That is not something to be emulated. That's bad. That's bad. Not to have Torah, not to have mitzvos is not good. It's a spiritual deficiency. The point that he's saying over here is don't judge. Don't judge, because sometimes you could have people who are incredible ba'alei emunah, even if they lack certain spiritual or religious trappings. Again, I will say this is a klal, God bless you, about not judging in general. Bless you. Not judging in general. Take a look. Next paragraph. Kamuvan. Let's see. This is a beautiful ending here. This is section. Kamuvan. Inlis topic b'emuna pshuta bilvan. Believe ishtadlu zermas. What's that in the Chaver says over here? Let's be clear. Do not be content with Torah and mitzvahs by itself, do not be content with emunah pshuta without Torah and mitzvahs. So I was supposed to say, like, let's be clear on one thing. You could say, oh, emunah is the ikr. Then you know what? I don't have to wake up at 5:45 in the morning for emunah. Right? I could get emunah. My emunah would be stronger at about 8:30. I think that's where my emunah would be at its peak. Meaning or what have to be some didactic mitzvahs? I can just have emunah. I believe that everything's about Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu loves me. Gams l'tova. No, we'll say person needs Torah mitzvahs. Ki emunah yesh ba dargos rabos b'lisof v'yesh schalim shel emunah. Shebeli haTorah ubeli hamitzvos efshar lahagia aleihem. We'll say the idea is Torah mitzvos are the means through which I cultivate an internal sense of emunah. Without Torah mitzvos, it's hard to understand again how to get to emunah, and it's hard to understand and appreciate what is emunah. Ba'osa bore shetziva lahaminbo tziva gam lekayim Torah mitzvos. The same Rebbeinu Shalom who commanded us to go ahead and believe in Him also commanded us regarding Torah mitzvos. Ikar will say these are important lines as we close out this section. Ikar hamesra mima'asazeh. So we'll say here, according to the Mechaber, is the ultimate takeaway from this particular story. The ultimate takeaway, we'll say, is for someone who does perform Torah mitzvos with all of his abilities. Shechayiv hu lahaniach es kol hadagish bavodaso ala emunah ulachavin b'chol mitzvah ub'chol limudo sheyagia al yadam le'emunah shlima. We'll say this is so profound. When we learn and when we do our mitzvos, so what is our kavanah? What is it that we are trying to accomplish? What is it that we are trying to do? So the Mechaber posits, I will say, now again, so often what we say to ourselves, which is a good thing, is I'm learning Torah, I'm doing mitzvahs. Why? Because it is the tzivoy, it is the command of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is absolutely true and absolutely beautiful, wonderful. The Mechaber says there's something deeper. When I learn, when I do mitzvahs, I have to have in mind that Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm doing this k'dei sheyagia al yadam le'emunah shlema. I'm doing this because some way, somehow, this is going to bring me to a level of emunah. We'll say what that does is it channels my avodas Hashem in the right way, because what this story, and again, I think just on a personal level, this story has impacted me a lot, because this story, I think, represents sometimes how in life you could be doing all of the right things, yet be on a dramatically wrong path. In other words, I could be totally observant. I could be totally proficient in my behavioral duties. I'm doing everything that the Ribono Shel Olam wants of me. But yet, I don't feel inspired. I don't feel connected. And to be honest, aside from doing it because God wants me to do it, I don't even know exactly what it is or why it is that I'm doing this. And says the Mechaber, that's because we lose sight sometimes that the entire essence of all of our Torah and all of our mitzvos is to allow us to reach a level of emunah. Sha'al yadam yagia le'emunah shalei. That through our avodas Hashem to reach a level of emunah. Kimeinu osakein. Because we'll say if at the end of the day, I know this we're thinking to ourselves like, hey, halavai, my biggest problem in life is that I'm doing Torah mitzvos and I'm not going ahead and doing it for the sake of emunah. So that's true, right? If that's the challenge, you're in good shape, no question. But I will say it's a spiritually and religiously dangerous place to be, because at a certain point in time, a person wakes up and says, "What is this for? What am I getting out of this? What am I doing with all of this? What's the impact of all this?" We'll say if a person doesn't have the right kavanos, that at the end of the day, when they're doing their Torah mitzvos, they're doing it to cultivate the sense of emunah. Nimtza shu'eno mishtamish b'kelim shabori nasan lo b'chasto b'shel hamatara. I will say if and I perform mitzvos, and my kavanah in those performances is not to cultivate the sense of emunah. You know what it's like? It's like getting the company car. Have a nice time. It's very relaxing. It's very beautiful. There's only one problem. That's not why you have the car. So that's why you have the car. The point is the Torah mitzvos are the company car that Kadosh Baruch Hu gives me in order to get to the appropriate destination. That destination is called Emunah. I was only given the company car of Torah mitzvos in order to reach that destination of Emunah. And if I don't go ahead and ultimately use these tools to cultivate the sense of Emunah, then unfortunately, again, I've used the company car and just gone in a dramatically wrong direction. So we'll say, so it turns out that the Mechaber teaches us two incredible yisodos. Of course, again, the ongoing yisod, the ongoing principle, which is the need to cultivate Emunah. Emunah being belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hakol Tova, everything is for good. And again, the second point over here now is that Torah mitzvos are not an ends, but rather Torah mitzvos themselves are the company car, are the means, are the mechanism, ultimately, again, through which we arrive at Emunah. And when we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and when we engage in the behavioral aspects of our Yiddishkeit, how important it is to remember that I'm doing this for the sake of cultivating an Emunah. I'm not just doing this, obviously, because it's obligatory. I'm not just even doing this because I'm a good soldier of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but I'm doing this because hopefully, some way, somehow, this act, this maisa, this episode of learning will help me to cultivate a deeper and more meaningful sense of Emunah. And we'll stop over here. We'll pick up bottom of Tzadik Gimel and Mirz Hashem tomorrow. Thank you. All right, so we'll say good morning. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. We are going to begin today's daf is Kuf Mem Tes 149. We are picking up on Kuf Mem Ches 148b. Last two lines on the daf Amar Rav Sheshes. So we'll say our shir this morning is dedicated by Yaakov ben Zakein and his Chusah B'Refuah Shalema for Chana Perel Bas. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, Chana Perel will have a complete and enduring refuah. Okay, so let's begin. Last two lines. Amar Rav Sheshes. Yitol v'yiskes. Remember again, we're talking about over here the different cases regarding the different lashonos for a shchid nira. Right, the different lashonos ultimately again that a shchid nira is able to say in order to go ahead and convey property to someone else. So Rav Sheshes says, what happens if the shchid nira says yitol? So and so should take the property. Yiske, so and so should go ahead and acquire the property. Yachzik, so and so should take hold of the property. Yikne, so and so should acquire the property. Kulon lashon matane. It will say all of these are lashonos of matana, and therefore will work to go ahead and convey property. Take a look at the Rashbam. 3 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav Sheshes. Shchiv me'ar sha'amar yiske ploni b'nachasai. O yita o yachsek o yikne kula lashon matana. V'kana the lashon matana ba'ina kidamina le'el. Either the point over here is in these cases, I just want to point out, the Shchid Mira is using one of these Lashonos, which is a Lashon of Matana, but is a shortened type of Lashon, is a shortened type of expression. So the Rav Sheshes is paskening that since all of these words convey, or I should say all of these words have a meaning of Matana, therefore ultimately, again, they work for the conveyance of Shchid Mira property. The Masnisa Tanar, also we learned, Af Yachsin V'yaras Bara'i Liyarsho. Both say so too if the Shchid Mira uses a Lashon of Yachsin. So Yachsin and Yoras are Lashonos of Yerusha, inherit. These Lashonos ultimately work to convey property to someone who is a potential heir. And this represents the view of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. This represents the view of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. Also, Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka was the one who said that a person is permitted to go ahead and give all of their property to one particular person. In other words, I can go ahead and give all of my property to one of my sons, as long as the person, and even though I'm going to cause the rest of my sons to lose out, leaving aside the Bechar. The Bechar has to get its Pishnayim, but I can go ahead and give all of my property to one of the heirs, as long as Lemaisa, again, it's somebody who's fit to inherit me. So the Gemara suggests that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, if a Shchimera uses a lashon of Yerusha to convey a gift to someone who is a potential inheritor, that will work as well. Ipailu, so the Gemara says kasha, top of Kuf Memtes, Yehaneh bahem, Mahu. We'll say, let's say the Shchimera goes ahead and says, I want this property is for Reuven Yehaneh bahem, to go ahead and get benefit from it. So what does that lashon mean? Mahu. Is the Shchimera saying that this entire property should be a matana, should be a gift to the particular individual? O Dilma, lishani minahu midi kamar. Or maybe the Shchimera is saying, no, that let Reuven, call him Reuven, let Reuven go ahead and enjoy the property. So we'll say, he's not giving a matna Shchimera, he's not giving a gift. Rather, he's giving Reuven the rights of usage, and those rights of usage occur now. So that's the shaila. Yehaneh bahem. Is that a conveyance of a gift, or ultimately, again, is that a right of usage? Next, yira'eh bahem. These are interesting lashonos. So yira'eh bahem means, Shimon says, let Ploni be seen in my property. Mahu. What does that mean? Again, is that a lashon ultimately, again, of conveyance of gift, or is that a lashon of maybe hana, of usage? Ya'amod bahen. Let Ploni stand in my property. Right? What is that statement? Yishan bahen. Let Ploni lean on my property. So we'll say these are all the types of lashonos that on one hand, again, could go ahead and could be a conveyance, could be a gift, but could also what? Could also really highlight just some kind of usage. So we'll say, what do we do in all these cases? Teku. So again, we're not sure exactly what these lashonos mean, and therefore the Gemara says teku. Fine. Iboilu. Well, so now the Gemara has another kasha, and this is very, very interesting. Very interesting. Exceptionally interesting. Iboilu. Machar kol nechasav mahu. We'll say up until now, when we were dealing with the Shchimera, we were dealing with the following situation. Someone is giving away all of their properties. Remember again, the construct that we have created is the following. Person's giving away all of their property and they're on their deathbed. So we'll say the way we interpret that gift is how? Right? It's a condition. Essentially, it's a conditional gift that a person thinks they're going to die. Therefore, they're giving all their property because, again, either because they don't want their property to be governed by the laws of Yerusha, they want to be able to give who they want, whatever it is. But what's also implicit then in that gift is what? Is that should the Shchimera recover, then what happens? It creates a little bit of a conflict of interest. Do you daven for the Shchimera? Don't daven for the Shchimera, right? So again, of course, I wanted to have a refuah shlema. I kind of like this. I like this field also. So let's say, the idea over here is it's understood that it's a conditional gift. That Shchimera gets better, he gets back the property because it's understood that his mindset was he's giving away his property because he's dying. What happens, I will say, if he sold his field? Let's say again, he's not gifting anything. He's sold all of his property. Now it's clear he's selling off his estate. Same idea. It appears that he's selling off his estate because he's dying. So what's the shayla? Machar kol nechasav mahu. What happens if he sells off his entire estate and then what happens? He recovers. What's this fascinating case? What's the status of that sale? So by the way, I'll just tell you something. You know, like Tosas and Ksubis brought down a parallel case to this. Again, lahavdil, because it's a more positive case. Remember again, Tosas brings down the case when Tosas was talking about Rabbi Baruch in terms of making Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. So Tosas brings down the case of where somebody goes ahead and sells their home. By the way, this is Lamaisa. This does happen. Person sells their home because they're making Aliyah. And then what happens? Their plans fall through. So do they have the right to go ahead and renege on a sale? Like that. So actually, Tosfos already brings up that case. I'm just pointing out, here's a situation where a person is disposing of their estate. It appears because they are dying, but Lamaisa now, Baruch Hashem, they make a recovery. Can they void the sale or not? Mahu. Amrav Yehuda Marav. Im Amad Eno Chozer. So says the name of Rav. Nope. Halacha l'maisa. Even if you get better, you cannot void the sale. Rav Yehuda Rav im amad chozer. So Yehuda says the name of Rav that halacha l'maisa you can't avoid the sale except when you can. Okay, good. So I'll say literally translated. You have Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. You can't void the sale, but sometimes Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav that if the shchiv nira recovers, he can void the sale. Which will say it's another way of saying the answer is sometimes yes you can void the sale, sometimes no you can't void the sale. So how do you know? When V'lo say the Gemara says this, these are not contradictory statements. This is fascinating. Ha de isnahu lezuzei be'inayu, ha de parinhu b'chovo. They will say everything depends on where the proceeds of the sale are currently. If so look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Ha de isnahu be'inayu. Chozer de lahachi shav kap Rashbam de lahachi shav kinhu im emod mechali achzirei. They both say if the shchiv nira still has the money. In other words, he sold off his properties and he still has the money. So the lemaisa again, if the monies are still intact, that shows the fact that he held on to the money shows that his intention was what? That in the event that he gets better, he's going to return the funds and he's going to get back his property. Masha'en came, Rashi says, if he took the monies, the proceeds from the sale, and he paid off his debts, then what Rabbi was saying, then even if he gets better, the sale is not reversed. Because in that case, it's clear that why did he sell off the properties? I also, again, it's an important thing. It's an important thing in general for a person to pay off their debts, but important especially for the neshama that all debts are paid off. So if you see that a guy is liquidating his estate and he's using the monies to pay off his assets, to pay off his debts, so then lemaisa again those sales are ultimately not voided. So we'll say so quite fast. And this halacha lemaisa. Now, of course, this becomes a bit more complicated because under a general circumstance of a gift of a shchimira, when does that gift transfer? Upon the death of the shchimira. Obviously, in a case of a sale, that's sales taking place now. So meaning, even if the shchimira, let's say, sells off the property, puts the money in the account, so the money is there, and then Baruch Hashem has he wants to go back and he wants to avoid the sales, that's fine. But if someone's been utilizing the property, made improvements to the property, or the property depreciate, obviously it's not as simple as the reversal of a gift. But lamaisa, the point over here is that the Jews asking that if the money is still there, it's good. The shchimira's intent was that if I get better, I'm going to give back the money, give back my property. But if the money has been used up, by the way, paying debts is just one example. The point of the name of Rav is that what? The money is no longer there. If the money is no longer there, then it's good that that's the shchimira, was that the sale should stand. Ibaylo, what's another kasha? Shchimira shahoda mahu. We'll say this is very interesting. What happens if a shchimira went ahead and admitted that property belongs to someone else? Shchimira has property in his estate, and on his deathbed he says, this property, it doesn't have to be all the property, some of this property, this field is not mine. Is not mine. It belongs to Ruvain. Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Third white line from the top. So Shimon on his deathbed says, this money or this field, it belongs to Ploni. So we'll say, even though up until this point in time, we knew this property and this money to be the possession ultimately again of the shchiv nira. Miyam rinon shehu omer kain shelo lahasbiya ezbanav odil makevan da odi. So we'll say, listen to this. So it could be, why would someone say this? Meaning, why would someone make a statement like this? The Rashbam says that he might be saying on his deathbed that certain property doesn't belong to him, in order to make it look like he owns less property, in order to make it look like he's less wealthy than he actually is. In other words, let's say that one of the things that sometimes a person is permitted to go ahead and a little bit about is their personal wealth. If I'm wealthy, I don't necessarily have to be totally forthcoming and honest about the extent of my wealth. Again, the Maharsha brings down because of ayin chara, different things like that. So it could be that if there are other people around that, and the shchimira says, you know what, that field's not mine, or that money doesn't belong to me. So how do we interpret that statement? Is that his way of kind of deflecting a little bit, that just trying to downplay the amount of wealth he has? Or do we say that Kevan the Odi? Do we say that no? Once he makes a statement that this field belongs to Ruvain, this money belongs to Ruvain, then what? It belongs to him. We'll say, just so you understand, one of the kinyonim we have, we do this, is actually one of the kinyonim that interestingly enough works by a non-Jew as well, which is what's called a kinyan odisa. Kinyan odisa means I admit that something belongs to you, right? So for example, when we sell the chametz to the non-Jew, so one of the things that we do is we do an odisa. I admit that the chametz belongs to the Gentile, belongs to the non-Jew. So I'll say, so the shaila is over here, is this an odisa? Is this a form of ultimately conveyance? It's conveyance through admission. So how do we understand this statement? So also listen to this. Gemara tells the Ma'isa. Tashma, the Isser Giyura, Avala Tracer Alpha Zuzi Rava. We'll say Isser the convert had 12,000 silver pieces that he used to store in the house of Rava. So right, he used to store it by Rava. Now we'll say, so just to understand over here, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. The Isser, who Isser Giyura? So we'll say this man Isser was a ger. Here's an interesting story. Sheba al Rochel bas Mar Shmuel kodem shenisgarev v'nis abra himenu begius. So let's listen to this. So this guy Isser, before he converted, was not a very good person. He kidnapped the daughter of Shmuel, a young woman by the name of Rachel. He violated her. She became pregnant. Then what happens? She has hashba on him, and ultimately, again, he converts. And what happens? So I'm sorry. Nolad Rav Mari. So we'll say, so they have a child together. He converts, by the way, they marry, and they have a child together. That meaning that child who was conceived when Isser was a Gentile, but yet by the time he was born, Isser was already Jewish. So it's what's called Haraso Shalo Bikdusha, Leidaso Bikdusha. His conception was when his father ultimately again was not Jewish, but his birth was when his father was Jewish. So what happens? Vihi mibnos Shmuel shenishbu kidis b'ksuf. So listen to this. So this is this relationship between Isser and Rav Mari. This is why Rav Mari is always known as Rav Mari bar Rochel. Right, Rav Mari is known by his father's name, is known by his mother's name, not known by his father's name. But yet again, so Isser is Rav Mari's biological father, but of course halachically there is no connection between the two of them. So watch this. So Isser has a lot of money. Isser Baruch Hashem has 12,000 silver pieces that he deposited in the house of Rava. So what happens? So the Gemara says, I'm sorry. So Rav Mari Berei. So Rav Mari, the son of Isser, so ultimately, again, his conception was without holiness, but his birth was in holiness, which meant that when he was conceived, his father was not Jewish, but by the time he was born, his father was Jewish. So what happens? So Ubei Rav. So at this point in time, this has nothing to do with the story, but Rav Mari was learning in the yeshiva of Rav. Fine. So what happens? Isser is a shchid nera. Amar Rava. Rava said, Heichi nikninhu Rav Mari lahani zuzi. So we'll say, so here's the interesting part. So this story is quite an intriguing one. So we'll say, so Rava feels that he's about to get this money. Now, why is he about to get this money? Because we'll also remember, Isser is a ger. Isser is going to die, and he's going to die without what? Without Yarshim. What's the halacha of a ger who dies without Yarshim? So the chasim become hefker. So now again, they will happen to become hefker while they're in the house of Rava. So Rava stands to inherit a significant fortune. The only thing I could potentially get in Rava's way of inheriting the significant fortune is Rav Mari. So now Rava's saying, well, let's analyze this. Meaning, how would convey this money to Rav Mari? So the Gemara says, Heichi nikninu Rav Mari lahani zuzi. How ultimately, again, would Rav Mari acquire this money from his biological father, Isser? Ibi Yerusha, if you want to say it's through Yerusha, Lav bar Yerusha. We'll say that's not true because remember, Rav Mari is not a Yoresh to Isser for one simple reason. Even though Isser is his biological father, he is not his halachic father. Iba matana, if you want to say ultimately again that Isser has the ability to convey it to Rav Mari through a matna shchidmira, that can't be. Why? Because matna shchidmira kirusha shavya. Remember again, we learned just in yesterday's daf that the matana of a shchidmira is modeled after Yerusha. So whatever doesn't work by Yerusha, technically speaking, can't work by matna shchidmira as well. Therefore, because ultimately again, so Isser is not shaykh to the laws of Yerusha because he has no Yarshim, therefore he lacks the capacity and ability ultimately to give a matna shchidmira. So the Gemara says, Kalecha de Isser Yerusha, Isser matana. Kalecha de Lasa Yerusha, Lasa matana. Again, the way that we'll say the laws of shchidmira work is shchidmira is an appendage, is a concept, is a derivative of Yerusha. If you are subject to the laws of Yerusha, then Lamaiskin you could avail yourself of matna shchidmira. If at the end of the day you are not subject to the laws of Yerusha, then you cannot avail yourself of matnas shchidmira.
Assuming his wife died also.
Correct. This is right. It has to be that Isser is the last surviving member of his family. That is correct. Meaning his wife died. He has no other children besides Rav Mari. Even Mashiach, less Nugaveh. So if at the end of the day Rav Mari is going to try to acquire this money through Mashiach, that won't work. Why? Because he doesn't have the money by him. If he's going to try to acquire it by Chalipin, that doesn't work. Also, this takes us back to our Bava Basra days. Ein matbeya nikna bechalipin, as learned in Hazov. Right? Ultimately, again, coins, money cannot be acquired through chalipin. I agav karka, if you want to say that ultimately, again, so Isser could convey this money to Rav Mari agav karka. Let's remember again, we learned this agav karka, that if you acquire land, you could acquire metaltalin. And we even took this a step further. That's what? That even if that metaltalin is not siburi, even if that metaltalin is not on top of the actual land, it doesn't matter. Just by virtue of acquiring land, you could acquire metaltalin elsewhere. That won't work either. Why? Lesle ara. Because Rabbi said Isser has no land, meaning apparently the only wealth that Isser possessed were these 12,000 silver pieces, which is quite significant. Iba ma'amad shlashtan. So I'll say, if you want to say that ultimately, again, the Master also, remember we learned this yesterday as well, which is what? One of the interesting, what we call one of the interesting rabbinic laws that is modeled after Halacha Moshe Sinai is what's called Ma'amad Shlashtan. Ma'amad Shlashtan means I could convey money to someone in the presence of three people. Now, those three people, I will say, usually are the borrower, the lender, and the intended recipient. So again, technically speaking, one of the ways in which Isser could convey the money to Rav Mari is he could go, if Rav Mari's there, if Isser's there, Rav Mari's there, and Rava are there, then ultimately, again, so that could be how Isser could transfer the money ultimately to his biological son. Isser could transfer the money to his biological son, Rav Mari. So if you want to say Ma'amad Shlashtan, listen to this. Ishalach li lo azona. So Rav said, I'm not showing up to that. Right? I'm just not going to show up to the Ma'amad Shlashtan. So Maskif la Rav Ika B'Rei Ravami. So we'll say, so again, this is a conversation having. Now we'll say, now what Rava's motivations are, right? What Rava's motivations are interesting, which is, we'll say, so it's quite possible that again, that remember, obviously, if Rav, see, what's the question you have to ask yourself in this story? What's the question you have to ask yourself? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you do have Isser depositing this money with Rava and not with Rav Mari. Not with Rav Mari, which again is just an interesting reality over it. Meaning Isser has a biological son, yet he's choosing not to deposit that money with him. He's choosing to deposit that money with Rava. Why? I don't know. So I'll say, so again, the point over here is you see Rava obviously taking an interest in this significant small fortune and not wanting it ultimately to be conveyed to Rav Mari. The Maharsha has an interesting idea. The Maharsha says that Rava's interest in all of this was he wanted to acquire the gift. His intention was to give it to Rav Mari, but he wanted to be able to do it b'toras tzedakah. See, he wanted to acquire title over the gift. He wanted a tax write-off. I don't know. He wanted to acquire title to the gift, and then ultimately again convey it to the biological son. Convey it to Rav Mari afterwards. That says the Maharsha was his kavanah. Okay, so says the Gemara. Maskif Ravika B'Rei Ravami. Amai. I don't understand. There is a simple mechanism through which Isser could convey the ownership of the money to Rav Mari. How? Velodi Isser dahalin zuzi Rav Mari ninu velik ninu ba'odisa. Let Isser go ahead and literally admit. Let him make a declaration, what we'll call a declarative transfer, right? Let him go ahead and make a declarative statement. I hereby declare this money belongs to Rav Mari, and through that Odisa, let the money transfer hands. Adahachi nafik Odisa mi be Isser. We'll say, sure enough, again, as they're talking, what happens? Out that Isser from his deathbed has made this Odisa, has made this declarative statement that he hereby conveys his money to Rav Mari. Ikbid Rava. Rava got upset. Amar Kamagamri ta'anasa le'inshi umaf sedili. Somebody's teaching Isser what to do, right? Look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Adahachi v'achi nafek Odisa. He says, Mitok shnemar beis hamedrash yatzakol. So after this was being discussed in the base medrash, someone went over ultimately again to Isser, taught him to do this, and he made the declarative statement that the money belongs to Rav Mari, and sure enough, the money was transferred. Rava got upset. People are teaching other people what to say and ultimately causing me a loss. So both say, you see over here, right? You see over here that halacha l'maisa again, Odisa works by Shchimera. That the Shchimera makes a declarative statement. This property belongs to Ploni, that ultimately again is a bona fide mechanism of property transfer and will allow the Shchimera's property to go ahead and transfer over to the intended party. Fine. Kuf mem tesamad base 149b. Share karka kolshu. Let's listen to this. So remember again, what's understood in the Matna Shchimera, Rabbi says, it's only called the Matna Shchimera if a person goes ahead and gives away everything. If a person doesn't give away everything, but they retain something for themselves, then halacha l'maisa, that is not called the Matna Shchimera. Rabbi said, so if it's not called the Matna Shchimera, what is it called? What is it called? A stam matana. Which Rabbi say means that at the end of the day, whether the Shchimera dies or whether the Shchimera recovers, halacha l'maisa, again, he does not get the gift back. So I will say, so shir kakra kol matanasa matana matanasa kayama. So I will say, if the Shchimera withholds some property for himself, then the Maisa, again, his matana is a bona fide matana. Even if he recovers, the property remains with the intended with the recipient. The kama kol sunu. How much is kol shun? So this is a very ambiguous statement. If the Shchimera retains even a small amount of property for himself, good. What's the definition of a small amount of property? So listen to this. Rav. So Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav. Karka kadei parnasaso. It's interesting. If the Shchimera retains a large enough parcel of land that he could support himself from it. So we'll say, if he goes ahead and he retains a large enough parcel of land that could generate enough support to take care of him, that shows that what? That he's hedging his bets a little bit. Meaning he's on his deathbed, but optimist also. So what does he do? He gives away everything, except he keeps a small parcel of land for himself, through which he could support himself if necessary. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar, metaltlan kedei parnasasom. And what Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, that by the way, this is not just with karka, this is even true if he retained some type of metaltalin for himself as well. In other words, if he retained movable property for himself, that would allow him ultimately to support himself in the event that he went ahead and recovered. So that shows that this is not a matna shchimira. This is just stamagit. So we'll say it's interesting because now what we're defining as kol shehu is he is returning for himself enough of a significant gift that should he recover, he will have parnasa. So again, less than that amount would still be apparently considered matna shchimira. So what was that? The novelty over here is that Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba is coming along and saying that this is not just a din in karka, but this applies equally as well with metaltalin as well. So Amar Rabbi Zera, kama mochovan shmaisesa desabi. So Rabbi Zera makes an interesting statement. He says, "Oh, look how beautiful and precise the statements of our elders are. Now, we'll say now what exactly that statement means. We're going to have to discuss. Karka taimamai. So I'll say ultimately again, why is it? So the Gemara says, I'm sorry, karka taimamai di kai samich alei. So we'll say, so why is it that ultimately again, if he retains some property for himself, that ultimately that no longer makes it a matna shchemira, because what he's saying is he's making a declarative statement by retaining enough property in order to support himself. He's making the declarative statement that there's the possibility that he will recover. Once he's making that statement, then ultimately this is no longer a matna shchemira. Metaltli nami ikoi samachalayu. He's similarly with metaltlin. When he withholds metaltlin for himself, Rabbi say, the statement that he's making is, I'm taking into account the possibility that I will recover, and therefore retaining for myself enough assets to support myself in the event that I indeed recover from this illness. Once a person has that mindset, then by definition, their other property disbursements now are no longer called the matna shchimira, rather they're just called stam a matana, and therefore even if the shchimira recovers, those matanos will still stand. So we'll say, so far, the takeaway message is the following: that halacha l'maisa, if the shchimira retains for himself enough property to provide him with parnasa in the event that he recovers, whether that is real property karka or it's metalton movable property, then his other disbursements can no longer be categorized as a matna shchimira, rather just as a stam matana, and therefore even if he recovers, those matanos stand. Fine. Says Maskar Rav Yosef. So we'll say now we're going to go back to just a moment. Rav Yosef says, "Umay kavanasa manda amar metaltalin." So Rav says, I'm sorry. So Rav Yosef says, "Umay kavanasa." So let's go back for just a moment. So remember again, you had Rabbi Zera saying, "Kama muchovan shmais sabi." Look how precise the statements of our elders are. Rabbi Yosef comes along and says, "Excuse me, what precision is there in the statements of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yirmiyah? How so?" Mandar metaltalin, because it was Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba who said that even if the shchimera withholds metaltalin, and he withholds enough metaltalin to give him parnasa if he recovers, then it's no longer called the matna shchimera. How is that so? Karkatan. The Mishnah explicitly says that the shchimera is withholding karka, right? So remember again, the Mishnah, when it discusses the idea of a shchimera not divesting himself of his entire estate, but holding on to something, the something that the Mishnah identifies is karka, not metaltalin. So how can you say that? How can you say that Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba is being precise when he says even if the shchimera withholds metaltalin, when the Mishnah is not discussing metaltalin? Second of all, so mando amar kedei parnasaso kol shutana. We'll say furthermore again, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yirmiyah, who say, but this is really more akash on Rabbi Yehuda, who says karka kedei parnasaso, that once the shchimera withholds enough property to provide him with parnasa, it is no longer a matna shchimera. Where does Rabbi Yehuda get that? That's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says karka kolshu. If the shchimera retains any amount of property, even if it's not enough to provide him with parnasa, it's no longer categorized ultimately again as a matna shchimera, rather just as a regular matana. So I'll say the point that Rabbi Yosef is asking is, Rabbi Zera, you are extolling the precision of these statements, but these statements are highly imprecise. Rabbi Yirmiyah is introducing that this concept applies to metaltalin. Meanwhile, the Mishnah only spoke about karka. Rabbi Yehuda says that he has to withhold the amount of karka that would provide him with parnasa. Meanwhile, the Mishnah says karka kol shu. So what's happening over here? So I'll say, so says the Gemara. Amalei Abaye. So we're going to answer both of these questions. Amalei Abaye. V'chol heichad d'tani karka dafka. So both say Rav Yosef's kasha on Rabbi Yirmiyah is that the Mishnah says karka, right? The Mishnah says that if a shchimera withholds karka, doesn't dispense all of his karka, withholds some of the karka for himself, that's no longer a matna shchimera. That's a regular gift. So asks the Gemara, are you telling me that asks Abaye, are you telling me that every single time it says karka in the Mishnah, does karka only mean karka, or could karka be a more generic statement for what? For property. So it says the Gemara, the tani karka dafka. Are you telling me that any time that the Mishnah says karka only means karka? What about to find? So listen to this. We're going to quote now from a Mishnah in Peah. HaKosev kol nechasav la'avdo. So we've seen this case actually a number of times in the past. A person goes ahead and writes all of his property to his eved. In other words, we'll say in this case, I own an eved, and I convey all of my property to my eved. What's the halacha? Yatsa ben chorim. The eved goes see, because they will say, understood, included in that property is what? Is the eved. So by giving the eved the property, what I'm doing two things. Number one, I'm giving him his emancipation. That's number one. Number two, I'm conveying to him the property of my estate. So HaKosev kol nechasav la'avdo yatsa ben chorim. Shiar karka kolshu. It will say, what happens again if I withhold some land for myself? Shiar karka kolshu lo yatsa ben chorim. We'll say in that case, he does not go free. Now look at the Rashba for just a moment. Shiar karka kolshu kigon shomer chutz mi karka kolshu lo yatsa ben chorim. So we'll say, if I go ahead and I say, Eved, I'm hereby giving you all of my property, my entire estate, except for karka kolshu. Literally, except for a small amount of land. Lo yatsa ben chorim. In that case, the Eved does not go free. I'm reading the rest of the Rashba. Sha Eved hukush lakar kos t'chsid v'stachaltem. V'hai karka kolshu ikal l'mimar shala Eved hu omer v'nimtza she'enu ben chorim v'gam anachasim lo kana. So we'll say, listen to this. So the idea over here is that if I say to the Eved, I'm giving you my entire estate except for some karka. We'll say an Eved is considered to be halachically karka. Therefore, what is possible that the part that I'm retaining is what? Is the Eved himself. Therefore, he doesn't go free, and of course, he doesn't acquire the estate. Now, the Rashbam, by the way, gives you, this is actually a little bit of a teaser, but I'll give it to you. Look at this. So what we're going to see. Same is true if the owner withheld metaltalin. Because as much as we say that an Eved is like karka, an Eved is also like metaltalin. So we learned this before. Why? Because at the end of the day, an Eved is not fixed in place. So because he's not fixed in place, he has the status as metaltalin as well. But we're not up to that yet. So look at the Gemara. So we'll say, so therefore, case number one is I write my entire estate to my Eved. If that happens, Eved goes free and acquires the estate. Case number two, Shiar karka kolshu. Eved, I hereby convey my entire estate to you except for some karka. In that case, Rabbi say, lo yotza ben chorin. He doesn't go free, nor does he acquire. Why? Because at the end of the day, the concern is the little bit of karka that I retain is in fact the Eved. Therefore, he doesn't go free and therefore doesn't acquire. Watch this. Reb Shimon says, no. Li'olam hu ben chorin ad sheyomar kol nachasai nisunin leploni abdi chutz mi'echad miribo shebahem. So also listen to this. Comes along Reb Shimon, and Reb Shimon says, you give your property over to your Eved. The Eved always goes free. The only thing that prevents the Eved from going free is if you say, I hereby give my property over to my Eved, chutz mi'echad mirivo shebahem. Except, for whatever it is, 1/200th of the estate, right? So some percentage of the estate. So what's the pshat? Take a look at the Rashbam. Reb Shimon over the olam hu ben chorin im shir karka kolshu the shir karka below avad below eved ad shiyashir sheshir sasim v'yomer kol mechasei nisun leploni abdi chutz me'echa mirvo shebahen shu echa mirvo eved koi ve'inu meshuchrar. So v'derech kavod kasav la'abdokach u'mikomakom lo kanakom. So let's listen to this. Reb Shimon holds that if you just say shir karka kolshu, we'll say ultimately again. So then that we assume that that's not referring to the Eved. The only time we assume that what you are withholding potentially refers to the Eved is when you leave behind some percentage of the estate. Say if you say to the Eved, I hereby convey to you my estate except for some percentage. In that case, we are concerned that ultimately, again, that percentage really represents the Eved himself. The Rashbam says because this is meaning to say that I'm withholding karka kolshu, that's not derech kavod. Ultimately, again, a person gives his Eved kavod as well. Therefore, it's only if he says I'm withholding some percentage of the estate that we are concerned that that percentage is the Eved. Therefore, the Eved doesn't acquire. Top of Kuf Nun. So these are all the various cases. Now the obvious kasha is what? So what about this is all where the Adon is saying, Eved, I'm hereby conveying my estate to you, but I'm withholding some karka. So what we see over here is depending on the formulation, if he withholds some karka, then what? then the Eved does not go free, and by extension, the Eved does not acquire, because we're concerned that the part of the karka that the Adon is retaining for himself is in fact the Eved. What happens, however, if the Adon doesn't retain karka, but he retains metaltalin? What happens then? V'amar Avdimi bar Yosef, Amar Bava Basra, asu metaltalin shiur eitzel Eved. Wow. So says Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says the halacha is the same if the Adon kept metaltalin. In other words, that if the Adon went ahead and said what Rabbi say, if the Adon said that metaltalin, I hereby Eved, I'm conveying to you the entire estate, except for certain for metaltalin, for some metaltalin, that Rabbi Elazar would say that would also be a problem. That it's possible that we would say that halacha l'maisa, the Eved does not go free. The Eved doesn't acquire the estate because maybe the metaltalin that the Adon is withholding for himself includes what? Includes the Eved. Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. So, Amar Avdimi, Amar Abelazar, Asu, Afagav Diktani Shir Karka Kol Shula Yatsa Ben Chorin. Even though again the lashon of the Mishnah was that if the Adon retains some karka, so the Eved doesn't go free. Hu adin im shir metaltlin kol shehu. The Avd, so we'll say this would be true. Elazar says that even if the Adon retained metaltalin, so even if the Adon said, Eved, I hereby give you my entire estate except for some metaltalin, at least according to some opinions, we would say the Eved does not go free, the Eved does not acquire the property. Why? Because maybe included in the metaltalin the Adon is withholding for himself is the Eved. Look at the Rashbam. So he said, Shu'avda, third line in, Shu'avda dami kimetaltali dami. Because Rabbi said, even though we always spend our halachic lives, our Talmudic lives, saying that an Eved is like karka, guess what? An Eved is also like metaltalin. Why? Shari eino mechuber lekarka. Rabbi said, you know why an Eved is like metaltalin? Because an Eved is not mechuber. Because an Eved literally is movable. V'karulei b'nei adam metaltali. It's all, I mean, an Eved is called metaltalin. Alma. Afagav diktani karka lav dafka elahu adin lemetaltalin umasnisnai metaltali kedei parnasasu kimikarkai kedei parnasasu. So what do you see from here? I'll say even though again the Mishnah Peah says that we're talking about karka, but you see about this comes along and says it's not just karka, it's even metaltalin. We'll say therefore, what do you see from here? You see from here that sometimes when the Mishnah says karka, karka doesn't just mean what? Karka doesn't just mean karka. Karka can also mean metaltalin. Therefore, I will say, bringing this back to our Mishnah, we're still in the middle of a thought, but bringing this back to our Mishnah, therefore it's quite possible that even though the Mishnah said that if a shchiv mira retains some karka for himself, it is no longer a matna shchiv mira. Rather what? It is a regular matana. It's possible that karka doesn't just mean karka. Karka also means metaltalin, as we have just demonstrated according to Rabbi Elazar by the case of the Ev. So we'll stop over here for today. We are stopping like a little bit mid-thought, but we'll pick up. But at least again, you got the raya that karka doesn't just have to mean karka. Karka can mean metaltalin. We'll continue with the rest of the thought of Hashem tomorrow. Yeah. Right? Oh well, it's a more robust. Once you have Odisa works. Absolutely. It's not much just more robust. More professional. Correct. The riot that the Gemara brought from the story of